A lot of monitors out there have great specs, high-end refresh rates, and OLED extravaganza, but when you plug them into your laptop, getting the colors to match up between the two screens is a pain in the butt. And a lot of the pro-level monitors out there do that really well, but they also cost an arm and a leg. BenQ is trying to shoot down the middle with this one, giving you some really good color accuracy without the huge price tag. Did they pull it off? Let's check it out.
This is Brad. He likes to review the tech. He also likes to draw. And this here is his theme song.
So what do we have here? BenQ sent me their monitor, which is the PD2732U. Bit of a mouthful to say, but a really nice monitor. This thing is 27 inches, it's a 4K display, and they also asked me if I wanted to try out one of their light bars and also an Ergo arm, and I said, sure, why not? All of these things are sold separately from each other. This isn't a package deal, and while these were provided for this review, the thoughts and opinions here are my own. So let's check out this very big and very heavy monitor box first. When you get it opened up, you are greeted by this black envelope with its color calibration report. Also, we have the cables that you're going to need to connect this to your computer. There's a power cord, a Thunderbolt cord, and a USB-C to A cord, and that's all. So I mentioned at the top, BenQ is paring some things back to get the prices down, and this is the first place that we see it. You can connect this with HDMI or even through a DisplayPort cable. Those cables, though, are not included here. Now, since this is like a pro level monitor, they're probably assuming that you have better computers that already support USB-C, or if you want to use an HDMI cord, you probably have one of those already. Now the ports along the back reflect the different ways you can connect this. We have that HDMI, we have that DisplayPort, we have 3 USB-C ports here. One is Thunderbolt in, the second one is for daisy chaining, and the third one is for USB features. That powers some of the ports that we have along the bottom of the display because we have 3 USB Type A ports, an additional USB Type-C port, and a headphone jack. Now in the box, this monitor comes in 3 parts. There's the monitor itself. It has a nice matte black plastic shell. Then we have the monitor stem or pillar. I actually don't know what this part of the monitor is called. It attaches directly to the back of the monitor itself. And of course we have this heavy metal base that screws into the pillar, and that's gonna keep this thing really anchored to your desk. Using this stand, this monitor can slide up and down. You can tilt it left and right a little bit. You can also pivot the screen up and down a few degrees. The stand even gets high enough for you to use this at a 90-degree angle. Also, we have the BenQ hotkey puck. Now the specs here are pretty straightforward. This is a 4K IPS display that's 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels. It's 27 inches corner to corner. It's only a 60 hertz refresh rate. You get 400 nits of brightness and a 1,000 to 1 contrast ratio. And just using the eyeball test, this is a very, very, very nice looking display. Now I used to have a really nice ultra wide Samsung OLED monitor behind me on my desk, and there was a lot I liked about that display. It was geared more towards gaming. It had a nice high refresh rate that I really liked, but when I plugged a laptop into it, the colors just didn't match. If I was reviewing a drawing tablet, the colors of the tablet didn't match. I spent a lot of time fiddling and trying to get the reds not to pop so hard or to get the grays to look a little more blue, just some of those little subtle touches. And it's only been in the last year or so when I started branching out and using more monitors that are really geared towards creators and specifically to content creation. That's when I started to notice the difference. Before we get to the next part, I want to say if you've ever thought about taking an art class and thought that would be fun, I've got just the thing for you. My Learn to Draw in 60 Days course is designed for beginners to get you drawing every day, a new lesson with homework. It's designed to get you in there and get you drawing. If you'd like to learn more, go over to bradsartschool.com and check it out. Now, before this display came, I was using a 2-monitor setup. One was an Asus ProArt 27-inch 5K monitor. The other one was a 27-inch BenQ 5K monitor. One of the things I like about both of those displays is how low effort they were to get the colors to match across devices and specifically to match each other. I should probably put a disclaimer here. I am not a hardcore color guy. When it comes to color, I value consistency over super accuracy. So if I draw something on the iPad, I want to pull it over to my computer. I don't want to be like, where the heck did that blue come from? Or why is the contrast way off? So when this monitor came in, I decided to pull the Asus monitor off my desk and just plop this in there and replace it because those two monitors that I was using were already 27 inches, so it should work pretty well. And once I set it up, I figured, hey, I'm just gonna spend the next week using this. I'm gonna tweak the color and the settings as I went. And as I used it for a full week, I went without touching anything. When I plugged my MacBook into it, the same thing. There was a MacBook color setting, a profile on there that I could just toggle on, but other than that, everything just looked accurate out of the box. And when it comes to monitors, what I am looking for is exactly that. That's the main thing. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just hate it when things look really off. So I did an interview a few months back with Art Is Right, where we geeked out about color accuracy, and I talked a lot about Apple's Pro XDR displays and what makes them special. I'll link that interview down below, but it opened my eyes to how some photographers and movie studios and people who are really hardcore into color like to grade that color and how important that is to them. I think this monitor, probably not for them, but this monitor is instead for someone like me. It's straddling that line between being pro and not over the top pro. It's trying to give those really accurate colors without going crazy with that accuracy. Now this is factory calibrated, it's not hardware calibrated. That's gonna save you money. This doesn't have HDR. That's going to save you money. The contrast ratio, it's not as high as it is on some of the other BenQ monitors out there. That saves money too. But it's still coming in with a 99% display P3 coverage, which is what I ended up using since I'm working mostly in video, and 99% Adobe RGB, which is also really good if you're designing for print. Now BenQ has their own color management software. It's called AQ Color Pilot. One of the things that they're trying to correct for in standard color calibration on monitors is that it tests the center of the screen, so that is where your accuracy is. As you go off to the edges, things get less accurate. And they are calling this corner-to-corner uniformity. This is something they are super proud of. And so far, the edges have the same brightness and the same color accuracy as the center of the panel. Now, I notice this the most on like inexpensive monitors, that this effect can be really pronounced. You have probably seen this on a monitor yourself when you look at it and you're like, the edges look darker or lighter, or it's just a little bit off. I've seen this on some of the like cheaper lower end drawing tablets that I review, and I think there's a really nice attention to detail sort of thing. Having this color uniformity across your entire display, you're paying for a nice panel. Let's make use of the whole thing. Now this also has a matte display, a matte coating on it. This comes with what they call their nano matte black. I think it looks pretty good. It's not as heavy of a matte as what I'm used to seeing on a lot of drawing tablets, so the darks end up sinking in really well for a matte display. You don't really actually notice it that much when you're using it, that it is a matte display, which is probably a good thing for a creative monitor. So that is the panel. That is the display. That is the main thing that you are buying, but this has all the little BenQ-ish things to it, those little amenities that creator monitors come with. And that's starting with the puck. This lets you control all of the settings without having to fiddle with the buttons at the bottom of the monitor. You can fiddle with those buttons if you want, but the puck is a much more elegant way to actually modify things. On my old monitor, my Samsung that I was telling you about before, I never touched the brightness, even though when I'd wake up in the morning and toggle things on, it would burn my retinas with the brightness. Here, I adjust the brightness all the time because you can just turn a little knob to do it. It's right there. You can use this to go through all your on-screen menus. You can set shortcuts using BenQ's software. The dial can be used to adjust the volume of your music. You can use the buttons on this to set up shortcuts to your most used applications. So that way, when you're on your monitor, you can just kind of toggle between them without having to move your mouse around to the bottom of the screen and pull them up. Now, I use these monitors mainly with my PC, but I have one of the Thunderbolt cables attached to the back just for my MacBook. Even though I was primarily using this on PC, I think using it with a MacBook is where it really shines. So the way I was using it, I could kind of switch between my inputs. In fact, this has KVM switching, so if I wanted to, I could control both my PC and my Mac using the same keyboard at that method. Also worth mentioning that when my MacBook is plugged into this monitor, it's also charging it. There's an M-Book color mode that matches the laptop to the monitor, so you could just jump into the same color space as soon as you plug it in, and you can adjust the monitor's brightness directly from your MacBook's keyboard. Now, when you're thinking about Mac displays, one thing to note is this is a 4K display. A lot of people like the 5K displays for their Macs. In fact, that's why I was initially testing 5K displays and using 5K displays, because I did a bunch of reviews of those things this spring. And it's because the resolution of the MacBook screen is 1440p. When you double double it, you get 5K. And so what happens on a 4K display is it's kind of shrinking things a little bit. Some people notice that the text can get like a little bit smushed. I think it's a pretty subtle thing. It's not something I notice on a monitor that is that high res, but if you do notice that kind of stuff, it might be one of those cases where you do want to spring for that 5K display instead of the 4K. The BenQ Ergo arm, how is it? Pretty good. Some assembly is required here. It's a bit of a project. If you like to go to IKEA just to get new shelves to assemble them, you will have fun here. But once it's put together, it's pretty good. One of the things I like here is that there are some plates with padding underneath them to protect your desk. Also, that plate is kind of wider, so it spreads out like the force and the weight of that over a larger area, which helps your desk too. This thing can hold up to 44 pounds of weight. This also comes in white. You can get a white Ergo arm. This one matches the black monitor that I have. The joints on it are all pretty tight, which I think is a good thing. And once it's in place, I want to move it on purpose, not accidentally. It comes with some tools, so you can go in there and like loosen those joints if they get too tight, or if they get looser over time, you can tighten them up. I can lower it all the way down so it touches my desk, and it also can get raised pretty high too. It uses a standard VESA mount at this size, so it will fit any monitor that supports that, not just BenQ monitor. Now, when you look at the back of a BenQ monitor, I like the design, just the industrial design of these things. They have this like circular area that their stand connects to the back of the monitor. Now, one thing you're going to notice, the VESA block is squared, so you lose some of that slick industrial design along the back of the monitor when you use this. For me, it's not that big a deal because my monitor is like facing the wall, the back of it's facing the wall, so I'll never notice. But if you're in an open office and you care about that sort of thing, it's something to take note of. I have used Ergo arms with drawing tablets before, so it's worth noting that this is good for monitors, but not for drawing tablets. It's not because like it doesn't stay where you put it or anything like that. It's just that it doesn't go low enough for a lot of drawing tablets. Kind of want to get that really lower to your desk. So you probably, if you go that route or want to use it for various things, you probably want to go with another Ergo arm instead of this one. But overall, generally for this monitor, 2 thumbs up. Let's talk about this ScreenBar Halo 2. This is the light that props up along the top of your monitor. I have never used one of these before. It throws light down on your desk without putting any glare on your monitor or shooting any light into your eyes. It just sits along the top of your monitor. It connects. Connect is kind of a strong word because it just kind of rests on top of your monitor, similar to the way like a webcam rests along the top of your monitor if you ever use one of those. One thing I should have learned earlier in life is that it is bad for your eyes to only have one light source. It creates eye strain. That is exactly what this is created for. There's also light along the back, so you can splash some along the back wall behind you too. Like BenQ's monitors, it also comes with a puck. This one has its own LCD display on it, and from there you can control the brightness by twisting the outer dial, or you can control the temperature of the light, making it feel more yellow, orangish, or push it into the pure white side of things. It's also motion control, so if I walk away, it will go to sleep. When I walk back to my desk, it will just gently fade back on. You can also toggle that feature on and off. I have never used a desk light before. This was one of those things that I had never ever thought of, never considered needing, but once I used it for a few days, I was like, okay, I get it. This is pretty nice. It's a luxurious light. It's not absolutely necessary to have something this fancy, but if you are looking for a really nice desk light, there you go. It's pretty cool. So that is the BenQ PD2732U monitor. I have yet to use a bad BenQ monitor. I really like these things. This one is the same. The others, now that I've kind of gotten this range, I used a giant 32-inch monitor that also was 4K, but it had a higher refresh rate. I used the 5K monitor that was very similar to this. And now that I've kind of stacked them all next to each other, like if it was up to me, I could get away with buying the cheapest one, this particular one, without spending all the extra money on some of those others. Because it's catering to me, and I don't necessarily need those high-end color accurate features. I need good enough color, right? I need color to get me like 80, 90% of the way there, not get me that extra 10% to the 100% mark of accuracy. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.